Hey, what's up, Lightbolt Joe here. Today we are going to discuss the brand new 2022 Disney Plus original film, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. So this is a continuation, but in the real world, of Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, which was a TV show that ran from '89 to '90, had 3 seasons long. That was it. Ran for a year, had 3 seasons, and so it's. Oh, how do I describe this film? This movie is incredible. So it's very homage to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is why we just talked about Roger Rabbit, because I wanted to get in that mindset to prepare for Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, 2022's Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. So it's the same concept of the real world of humans and cartoon characters, toons, live in the same world, right? So Chip 'n Dale, we get an origin story of the 2D animated, chipmunks. They meet in 3rd grade. They become best friends. They put on shows together. They then move to Hollywood together. They get a TV show together, and that's how Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, came about. So it ran for the 3 seasons. There was Monterey Jack the character. There was Gidget. There was this other character's name I don't know. I never watched the show. I was born in '90, so that was not my time period, obviously, if it aired a year before my birth. So Chip 'n Dale as characters have been around since like the 30s, 40s, but their first TV show was 1989, which ran until 1990. But in this version, you have homage to toons living with humans. So here we are 30 years later. What are the characters up to now? So Chip is selling insurance. He's still 2D. Dale had a CGI I can't speak the word. Rejuvenation. There we go. A CGI rejuvenation surgery. So he's a 3D animated character now instead of Chip, who is the 2D animated character. So to have the two of them back together again in 2 different styles of animation, groundbreaking. So neat. So ingenious. Why are they back together again, though? So their co-star, their friend, Monterey Jack, has been kidnapped. Bwahaha. By this evil, gang leader, Sweet Pete, blah ha ha, and the fear is that Sweet Pete runs a bootlegging business, and he will steal well-known animated characters, tweak them, erase parts of them, change certain things, and then make bootleg movies of The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or Peter Pan, things like that, right? As the story progresses, we learn that it's a grown-up Peter Pan who is actually Sweet Pete. So he's running the charge with this creepy, distorted, early 2000s Seth Rogen character with the dead, soulless eyes kind of a thing. They touched on so many different forms of animation. There's that kind of animation. There's claymation in this. Captain Putty is voiced by J.K. Simmons in this. But so many different properties were mixed in as well. We'll talk about that. So as the story progresses, it's a matter of trying to save, Monterey Jack. It's trying to save the other characters who were bootlegged. It's a matter of uncovering who is working with Sweet Pete. And then eventually the story progresses, and different versions of different episodes of Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers was used as plot points and thought aspects of how to save the characters in the present moment with the help of a deputy sheriff, whatever you want to call her. And it's just a detective, and it's so neat having all that referenced to the original source material as if it was a real life event, much like how Roger Rabbit was a 2D animated cartoon character filming on a stage in a real world. It's just so cool bringing all of that in together. So it's not even a reboot, because it's not a reboot of the franchise. It's just it's an alt explanation of the characters and a future fast forward. What happens next? I don't even know what genre this is technically. Do we even have a name for it? We have to talk about that. It's just so interesting seeing all of these different characters from all these different properties come together. Okay, so we had obscure characters and obscure animation from DreamWorks, from Amblin, from 20th Century, who's now owned by Disney technically. We had Warner Brothers. We had Paramount. Like, Ugly Sonic was a main character. Not a main character. He was a secondary character in a few different scenes. But, like, ripping into why Ugly Sonic is at a con you know, signing autographs when good-looking Sonic got the role for Sonic the Hedgehog. That the internet freaked out that ugly Sonic had human-looking teeth, and then burned everything down. Like, bro, that was so meta to see, and then to have him work with the FBI at the end, it's just so genius to tie it all together. But you had random things. You had a billboard, a park bench for a bus bench for re-elect Senator Butthead from Beavis and Butthead, MTV cartoons. You had a South Park character in a sauna room. You had is this rated PG? This is rated PG. So all of these different characters. You had Rick and Morty characters. That's Warner Brothers property. You had Transformers. You had Pixar characters, obviously, for, you know, Disney animated, you know, aspects as well. Having the Wreck-It Ralph police donuts show up at the scene of the crime at one point, I almost laughed my ass off. To have the mishmash Peter Pan at the end of part of an Optimus Prime leg, a Woody leg, what was it, a Wreck-It Ralph arm, I don't remember what the blaster arm was, and then Kitty Yzma from Emperor's New Groove as the head. I almost lost my cool. Lost it. It was so genius integrating all of these things together. To have a little clip of E.T. versus Batman, Amblin DreamWorks versus Warner Brothers DC in a Disney film. Bro, I need to know how all of this came together, especially when Seth Rogen's character, the odd, you know, early 2000s dead eye looking, you know, creepy face, small person Viking character, is at the con, and he's interacting with other versions of himself. He's interacting with himself because he's a voice actor as well as an actor and a director and a producer and a writer. He voiced Pumbaa in the live action Lion King. He voiced Bob in DreamWorks Monsters vs. Aliens. He voices Mantis in the Kung Fu Panda franchise with DreamWorks. So to have all four of those characters interact with each other, I almost lost it. You had Lumiere at one point. You had He-Man and there's just so much going on. There was the Shepherd's Journal from Atlantis at one point, like as a like buy it thing at a con, like so many different callbacks. There was a whole graffiti thing with that Miles Morales does in the Amazing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The thing he does with Great Expectations, that he paints with his uncle in the sewers. I mean, his uncle watches him do it, but he himself does it. It's just, and that's Sony Animation. So how the hell did all of this come together? I need to know the contracts. I want to know how long it took to negotiate prices to use intellectual property. They did this obviously back in the 80s with the Roger Rabbit film, which did very well, used different animation from different studios of that time. Did the same thing now. It's not a direct sequel to Roger Rabbit, but it's the same concept, Toons living with humans. You had Roger literally on a dance floor interacting with Chip and Dale at one point. You had Sweet Pete going through a stash of like weaponry, and like he gets to like different objects, and then like you see a little vial that's labeled dip, and we know that dip is what actually erases cartoon characters. We know that from the Roger Rabbit mythos. So like it's all coming together. The thing that hits home the most though is the kid who played Peter Pan, the kid who voiced Peter Pan, and I don't know his name, but he's a kid actor, and it didn't end well for him. He was Jim Hawkins. Was he Jim Hawkins? Yeah, Cabin Boy Jim Hawkins in the Disney Treasure Island, 1950s, I believe, early 1950s, and then Peter Pan, he was the voice of Peter Pan, which did come out in the 50s as well. And he did something else after that, but then like Disney dropped him once his voice dropped. Once he hit puberty, like they dropped him. They were like, you're too old, you can't play characters anymore. And it's just so weird, like thinking of Disney Studios doing that, you know, to a kid at that point, because nowadays we see them take a kid and market the hell out of them. They're getting their own record label, they're getting their own, you know, cereal, they're getting their own perfume, they're getting everything. So to think of it from 70 years ago, it's a very weird thing, but that actor, you know, lost all his money. Like I think he was addicted to drugs at some point. I think he died from an overdose, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just such a tragic story, and to utilize the Peter Pan character, the Disney Peter Pan character, as a grown-up on hard times, you know, Disney dropped him. He literally said, Disney dropped me. And it's just, it's kind of, it leaves me with a salty taste in my mouth, just because I know the history of the actual actor, whose name I don't know, but I know the story of what happened to that actor. So it kind of like, it's very meta. That's the best way to say that, the whole thing about the film. And I love this film, I do, but that I think is a little too on the nose in regards to meta, just because of the torment that actor actually went through after Disney dropped him. It's not fiction at that point. It actually happened. So that's the only thing that leaves me with a bitter taste in my mouth. Everything else is absolutely beautiful. Love the representation of all the different types of animation over the last, 70, 80, 90 years into this one film. So well done within a fandom aspect as well. But that's the only thing that really got to me, was the actual history of the Peter Pan actor, and then bringing that into a fictitious version of the 2D animated Disney Peter Pan as an adult. What happens next? That's all I got. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.